Hello and welcome to Tuesday at 2. I'm Alison Nissen, and along with my sister, Marcy Stoudt, we are the co-founders of Revel Coach, a coaching platform that inspires our clients to live their dreams. We created Tuesday at 2 as the place where intelligent conversations turn dreams into action. And over the last 3 years, we have been working hard to provide a place for conversation, growth, and harmony that women can find and discover ways to balance and harmonize. Did I say harmony already? Because harmony is very important, career and home. So I'd like to welcome you officially to this particular Tuesday at 2, as Marcy and I discuss our journey goals for the platform that we have created.
So Alison, thank you for kicking it off. You know this, but the end of the year, I always think it's one of my favorite times of year. There's so much like fun buzz in the air as it relates to like people getting ready for the holidays. And if you have young kids, the excitement is just contagious. And there's so many great things happening. And then on my fun little corporate side, I love the year end because it starts beginning that new wave of hope and vision towards the future, where you start planning, what does your next year look like? What does your next 5 year look like? Almost as if you're level setting it, and you can say, all right, what did we learn last year? Because when you say, what did we learn? That's also known as what mistakes did we make and how do we learn from them? So it's just a fun time to kind of, we're almost starting like clean slate for January, and we started planning. So I'm excited today to talk about our goals together and what we want to accomplish. So Marcy, I want to ask, yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you have any stories that you remember about growing up. Because as sisters, we have growing up stories, but do you remember any stories about goals?
Oh, well, we grew up with a father, Doug, who was very into goals. And he used to sit down with us. He was always like reading and researching, and he'd run marathons, and he'd come home after like a long run, and he'd have this idea for us, always come back. But the biggest thing that he always was mandatory for us, the younger sibling, because I feel like Alison, he didn't do this as much for you. So he must have learned this at a seminar later and when we were still at school, and you might've been in college. But he always had us write goals. So every single, year we had to write on sticky notes our goals, and then we'd put it in his bathroom mirror where we would all brush our teeth and things like that. So we always had his goals and our goals written up there. And it was fun, like growing up, because we had like mini celebrate. We knew what each other were trying to do. So I knew when Jack hit a goal or somebody hit a goal, like we would kind of celebrate it, cross it off, and then do something else. So I always felt like growing up, goal setting to me is best done if it's printed somewhere, and then somewhere where you're going to see it every day. So putting in Dad's mirror was the place where we had ours. So he really didn't do that for you.
No. I call myself the experimental child because I was the oldest. So I think they tried things with me, and if it didn't work, then they would try something else with Jack and Marcy. So you guys got the benefit of the goal setting. So I did not, but I did learn along the way, because a lot of times things are vicarious. You just learn because you're watching someone else doing it. And Mom and Dad both mentored us very well with how to set and establish goals and how to actually carry them out. I will tell you, one of the goals that I had when I was little, and I've shared this before on Tuesday at 2, so everyone's going to hear this story once again, was I wanted to make it to the Olympics. And when I realized that wasn't going to happen, my dad's like, hey, there's other ways to get to the Olympics. You don't have to be an athlete. And then all of a sudden I was like, I could be a coach. I could be a journalist. I could be somebody else who makes it to the Olympics. So that was one of my goals. Now, as I grew from 10-year-old to 12-year-old to now a, 55-year-old, I'm not planning on going to the Olympics anytime soon, but it was still there that we could actually shape the way we wanted to plan our future.
Well, I think that's so important, because a lot of times, you set a goal, and the goal is kind of set, kind of large, big, vague. And sometimes if you don't take the time to personalize it, you don't really understand the drivers behind it. But I heard that first story about you wanting to be an Olympic athlete, and on a Tuesday at 2. So I hadn't heard that before, which is really fun to be in business with you, because then we have to pull up these stories that we had the same childhood, but totally different experiences. Same parents, same everything. But after I laughed that I heard you wanted to be in the Olympics, I did admire how you learn from dad and saying reshaping it and how you could be, how you actually can go to the Olympics, which was at the goal, but doing it from a different way. So that's pretty cool. So I'd love to ask you, so going through, when you go into goal setting, I think it's really important to do some reflection first and asking some pretty simple questions. But, the two questions I like to ask, one is, why did you start? Why have you been doing what you do? So for us in the entrepreneurial space, why did we start? And then the second question would be like, what did we learn? So can I ask you, what are your thoughts? Like, why did we start Revel Coach in its first place? Why did we start Tuesday at 2?
Revel Coach came about because we wanted to work together. We wanted to do something together. We were continually supporting each other, and we would have questions. And so we would call friends, call colleagues, and ask them for the answers and then share them with each other. And we decided to start inviting people into a conversation. So we would join, the three of us would be on the phone together. Then we thought, well, why don't we make it a little bigger and actually create a platform where we could have guests that would not just participate as some teaching us something, but other people could learn as well. So Tuesday at 2 started off as just a simple platform with us wanting to know something. And now here we are on Facebook and YouTube, LinkedIn, and we are able to share these conversations with people. So the Revel Coach began just because we wanted to do something together because we have fun. And if it's not fun, it's really not worth pursuing. And so we wanted to do something together. But then Tuesday at 2 came around because we really wanted to learn and continue learning. And that has been the biggest lesson that I've had, is that there's no way I'm ever going to learn everything. But also, so many people inspire me. And every single time we have a person who comes on and shares their story with us, I am energized and I'm able to learn from that. I'm able to take away some of their key notes and turn it into something that's important in my life. And I do think that one of the goals I would like to see us have in the next year is that we have people say they started something because of Tuesday at 2. That's where I would like to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great goal. I'm writing that down. It's interesting because we've been doing this for 3 years. And so we've interviewed over 150 women. And every time we do it, our questions come from natural curiosity that we don't know how to do something. And we just want to learn from their story or their journey, want to gain inspiration or their knowledge. But what was really cool is for us, it's like we started 3 years ago just with this simple platform of like, we know that individually, we all know something. Collectively, we know so much more. So if we could just open this platform and make it easy for people to access information and stories from other people and create like this network, we just could go from a place of, a place of trust and a place of asking questions and just interview women that believe in mentorship and helping each other. So that was really awesome. And I like this new goal of, going into like evolving from the free platform that we have now into having maybe more vehicles where we can have a lot more hands-on coaching, because it's almost impossible to interview 150 people and be prepared for all these conversations to not have the core themes of what it takes to start a business. So Alison, kind of continuing that, what did we learn question? One thing I feel that I learned from you is really just to get started. So there's a lot of fear, even like before these calls. I get nervous before them. I mean, I know it's one of those things like, you're so talented. I'd be like, let's do it. Let's just go for it. And that type of unbridled enthusiasm is it's encouraging. It helps people go for it. So in the solopreneur platform, or as you're starting something new, what I learned is that the actual event of doing something is not nearly as scary as the fear before you start. So that's one thing I definitely learned from you. And I'd like to say thank you for that. And then the other thing I'll say I learned from you as well, is just be consistent. So I wanted to have, I wanted to have all these business plans, a lot of things figured out before we got started. And you were encouraging us like, let's just get started, because Revel Coach is our umbrella company. So we can do other things with that. And, what I liked that you said is like, well, the secret is not like how well thought out the secret business plan is that nobody's going to see, but maybe your banker or maybe another person, but just they're going to see something and it's got to be consistent. So that consistency, like getting started and being consistent, is a big thing that I've learned, especially again, last year with launching another program that we had and doing some things. That consistency has really been pretty huge for me.
It's not easy to be consistent, because when you have ideas coming at you left and right, you just want to shift. And if you have had a bad day, you say, that's it, I'm going to scrap the whole thing. I'm going to start all over. And a quick little story with this one, I had gone through some trauma in my life. A lot of you know that my first husband had gotten sick. I was 3/4 of my way through my graduate degree, and I wrote my thesis. And my advisor said, it needs a little work. I was so frustrated. I literally scrapped the entire thing and started all over. I didn't need to start over. What I needed to do was slow down and not be so emotional about it. When something comes at you from a different point of view, all of a sudden you want to shift and say, that's it. I want to do it all over again. I want to do it the right way this time. I'm going to start differently. That's not the key. The key is to actually continue taking steps forward consistently. And when you consistently take those steps, you will consistently improve and get better. It's incremental. Mm-hmm. We can't take leaps without taking small steps. And we need to take those small steps consistently.
That's so good. And I'm going to add to that, because when we start thinking about, we now have our methodology we call the Revel Way. But the one thing that I do feel like a mistake that I have made in the past, and now I've learned from it, especially, last year, is while I want to be consistent, it doesn't have to be consistent to what I said I was going to do 8 months ago, because 8 months ago, I was passionate about this great idea. It's really being consistent with defining your vision of where you're headed and allowing that to be a little bit fluid. So while you're being consistent on, the steps it takes to succeed, it's really important you're taking some reflection time and saying, okay, where are we headed? Why are we headed there? What's important to us? Who are we talking to? But allowing yourself to kind of get a deeper dive into what your vision is, because when you do get stuck in something, most of the times, if you're overwhelmed, it's not necessarily because you have too much on your plate. It's typically because you have some sort of negative self-talk that's pulling you back. And that negative self-talk, it almost always is stemming from the fact that you're living up to something you don't want to do, or that doesn't inspire you. So if you're really clear about your vision of where you're headed, and every morning you're kind of, fine tuning and you're doing some things, you have an opportunity every day to live up to that vision. And you get so clear on that you don't even hear the noise around you of the doubters or all the past experiences you've had with people that, say that wouldn't be possible. And you just kind of stay focused on that. So to me, that the vision work that we've been doing over the year has really been helpful, because it keeps evolving into something bigger. So with that, Alison, can you share a little bit about the Revel Way, how that works?
I would love to share more about the Revel Way. So we discovered this path for us. It's 4 simple steps. It is really, really 4 simple steps. It's creating a vivid vision. It is aligning our action with that vision. It is embracing a growth mindset. Now, this part is a little bit tricky. This goes back to what I was just talking about with that embracing the growth mindset. As we grow, as we move forward into that vision, we have to learn to adjust. And sometimes as we grow and stretch, it's a little uncomfortable. And we need to be able to embrace that growth, because we change. Everybody changes. I mean, nobody stays the exact same. Who I was yesterday is not exactly who I am today. So I'm changing and evolving as I go through life. And each time I do, I need to stop and celebrate along the way. So that's our 4th step, is celebrate joy. What I also love about these 4 items is they're not stackable. They can go in any order. So we can have an aligned action and see a new vision. Mm-hmm. And then we can see that new vision and decide we want to celebrate it, because it is where we really want to be. And all of a sudden we realize we're growing. And so it just all works together. It does provide harmony in our lives when we work through that Revel Way.
Well, and as you're talking, it does make me think like with the growth mindset. So I do a lot of coaching with women navigating, career and family. And often when I talk about the growth mindset, sometimes, we have life. And at one point, you're born with growth mindset. Like clearly, intuitively, you're going to walk, you're going to talk, you're going to drive, you're going to do all these things. That's just like, you have such confidence. You wake up every morning, know you're going to be able to do it. And then as you experience life, you have some bumps and bruises and some limiting doubts, some things that create doubt, and you start putting limitations on yourself. So when you are thinking about the growth mindset and you really want to kind of be clear about what it is, you think about how you would handle, say, a middle schooler. So if somebody's struggling in basic math in middle school, as a parent, you don't start, we used to say to girls, oh, well, you're not that good at math. Girls aren't good at math. And then, the trajectory of that, the limited mindset, we don't have a lot of women in math and science and technology. Luckily, it's changing because the world decided to have better messaging to the genders. But if it's a middle schooler and they're not good at basic math, you wouldn't say you're not good at it. You would actually just be like, well, let's do it a different way. Let's try to figure this out. You're going to figure it out. You are going to take more advanced classes. You're going to look back and realize this is not that complicated. You're going to take your SATs. You teach them how to really do the math. And if you need to hire support, you hire a tutor. You do all those things to flourish the value and why they want to do it. And then you get into like your personal world, that same mom that's teaching all these great things to this kid, like you can do anything, you can be anything. Somehow we have our own limits, our own doubts. Like, well, I haven't worked in 10 years because I've been taking care of the kids, or I don't know how to be an entrepreneur, or I don't know how to do this. And that's all limited mindset. So for us, when we started figuring out this Revel way, it's like, how do you foster your own community of people that can help you say, well, you could do this. And again, that's one thing I loved about these Tuesdays at 2, because the whole culture of every one of these calls is all about, how did you do that? We're just trying to learn, because we've never built a website before. We've never done, half the things you need to do with technology these days. It really keeps evolving and changing. So with that, Alison, do you want to talk about our thoughts of our 2022 goals and kind of go a little bit into where we could take this platform and what we're thinking?
We're going to call them journey goals. So if we take that Revel way and we apply it to our goal setting for 2022, we're calling them journey goals. And the reason we're calling them journey goals is because it is a journey. It's not like you set this goal and now you achieve this goal and you're done. It is a journey along the way to your next goal. So embracing the idea of a journey rather than just a goal will continue your path into growth and into success and flourishing. I love that word, flourishing. So for 2022, I have some goals. So one of them is that I would really love to have our past Spotlight members and some of our biggest fans come together. And if we can figure out a way to have a retreat, this might not actually be in 2022. Maybe it's going to be in 2023, but I'd love to figure it out as part of our plan, because I think that if we could get together and have a retreat and spend time working with each other and really diving in to do the deep work that it takes to create transformation, that we can really start to change the world. Which, wouldn't that be fantastic if we could change the mindset of everybody that they can, rather than that they maybe could, which we did used to say, maybe I could, but now we're saying, you know what, we can. And I would like to inspire people. As I said, I would like people to say, I started my business because of Revel Coach. Well, how are we going to do that? Let's get together. Let's do the deep work together. We need 2 days, 3 days. We need a solid bunch of hours. We can't do it in a 30-minute segment on a Zoom call. It's just not going to work that way. So I do think that trying to get to that deep level of understanding of where our problems are and what we can do to create goals that help us get through those problems would be extremely exciting.
I love
that.
What
about you? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to add to that. Can we just do it at a vacation spot too?
Well, yeah, of course.
but of course. No, I think that would be great. For me, going into the journey goal. So I always go back and forth when we started the call, I was saying how I'm really good at goals. And that's what we did in corporate America. You set goals and, you kind of have your EBRs, your expected business results, and you get really specific around it. So you know what your game plan is on a weekly basis. So that's kind of like almost an easy thing to do, like what the goals are. And then what I've loved about our making up this journey, I think we were making it up, the journey goals. I feel like I listen to so many podcasts that I'm not 100% sure, but in our opinion, we made this up. But in the journey goals, it's like, if we know we want to do a retreat, so retreat could be one of it. That's definitely like a goal. I think that'd be awesome. Like, what do we want to experience along the way to that goal? And I love this idea of having more women be more successful. So potentially one thing we could start doing is an idea we had, a long time ago. We keep recircling some other ideas too. But maybe we could do, instead of waiting for the retreat, like have some of the Tuesdays at 2 focus on a specific category, like social media or, financial planning for solopreneurs or something that below, and we could do like panels. And then that way we could get a deeper dive on one subject and have a few of those next year.
I think that's a great idea. We'll have to check our schedule. I know we are actually booked up until April right now, which is an unbelievable success in my eyes. So congratulations, Marcy. We have done something amazing. Well, I like the idea of the panels. So let's go for that.
That'd be great. One thing that Alison and I have always said, like when we were talking about the vision, where we always say, okay, well, let's define success of Tuesday at 2. So you have a lot of people that ask questions like, well, how do you make money? And for us, that was never the priority in this platform. It was like for us to learn and do things and like connect with other women. And it's really like, it's more of a marketing to stay relevant with people in our platforms and stuff like that. But we just wanted to connect and create this community. And for us, the journey of doing this, we said we define success as long as it's easy and we're having fun. And those are the 2 criteria. So when we first started, we'd be scrambling. It'd be like Monday at 1 and be like, who's tomorrow? We didn't have anybody. But it really is nice. We've got enough of a brand that they are signing up on Alison's little Calendly. What about, I know one goal that you have that you've always had, and you're very successful at it as a public speaker and a district manager for Toastmasters. What about like speaking engagements? Any goals for 2022?
I think we should share the stage for sure. I think we should find gigs that we can do together and share, goal setting, share ways that people can find harmony between all the different facets of their lives. So we have family, we have work, we have volunteerism, we have school, we have all these different things that are parts of us. And a lot of times they feel like they're clashing and not fitting together. The trick is to find the harmony. That's why I don't like the word balance. I think balance is like a scale and you put one weight and it tick-tocks back and forth. I really like to think of it as harmony and that it's blending, because sometimes you have to put more effort into something than other places, but then you can make up for it on the flip side of that. So I do think that there's something to harmony and it's just more graceful.
Well, when we first started brainstorming about the word harmony, Alison's husband's an awesome drummer. Like they're really, they have like the drum set and it can get, fun and loud. And so when you think about a symphony trying to get harmony, you could have very loud instruments, you can have very soft instruments, but how everything plays together. So we have lots of kids like revolving door coming to our house. And when it's lively and fun, it's got a lot of thuds and barking and wet dogs and stuff like that. But to me, that's harmony because we are all enjoying, like it's a really fun, easy place to kind of run in and out. And so when we were kind of debating, is it balance? I'm like, well, I wouldn't think anybody would take a snapshot at my current state in my house while I'm on a Zoom call. And they're like, that doesn't look like work-life balance. Like it's like kind of loud chaos in another room. But to me, it's harmony because it's what I love. Like I love, a lively house and things like that. So that's why I love that you've thought of that word harmony and then bringing it to, symphony of having like Bob on the drums, but still having harmony, in how we're doing things.
That's true. I think that, all the various spots points in our lives are chaotic at some point, or just feel I'm not going to say out of balance. They feel like we go on undulations, and that we're inundated with different parts of things. It's the right word, right?
Mhm.
Undulations, the swinging back and forth. I'm the writer.
I need to ask Siri. So I guess we're kind of at the top of the 30 minutes, and to close it out, maybe we'll share again like how to do journey goals. So as we're kind of meandering, what Alice and I thought when we were getting ready for today, we're like, let's not prepare, let's have a conversation, totally out of Marcy's comfort zone, but let's just have a conversation around this, and we'll talk about some of our tangible goals, we'll talk about journey goals. But for those of you that do want to do journey goals, our advice is don't overcomplicate it. Try to do a journal exercise. And one step you can do is do a little reflection, like, where are you? And it can be in retrospect. It could be, just kind of get light in terms of, where you are, what's important to you, your core values, anything like that. And then when you think about, future, I try to pick a year that's not too crazy far out. So 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and just do whatever comes natural, like write some goals down. Like, I would like to make $1 million, or, whatever, like the random goals are that we all have, like life goals, buy a house, those types of things. Once you get that out of your system, then start going deeper to why it's important to you, and answer the 3 questions, like, along the way to achieving this goal. So say the goal is to buy a new home for our family. What do you want to experience? So you think about that question, and on the way of making enough money to afford to buy a home, what do you want to experience? Well, there's things that work you're an experience. You might want to experience vacations with family. You think about that time period in those 3 years or 5 years, and think of like, what are the experiences I want to experience? It could be, I want to experience love. I want to experience calmness, or I want to experience, there's anything you can experience. You just allow yourself to kind of let the pen see what comes up. And then the second question you really want to answer is, over the next 3 to 5 years, how do I want to grow? And in the how do I want to grow part, you can think of things like, in order for me to have a stronger impact or better capabilities to achieve these goals. So if you have a goal in 5 years that you want to be president, you want to get promoted to be president of your company, well, what do you want to experience along that time? Like, you might want to experience getting 5 people promoted that work for you. You might want to experience, you want to learn a skill on how to get the most out of a diverse team. So then that way, you can get results. So there's a lot of skills you can learn, how you can grow. Some people say they want to learn language, there's lots of things there. And then the third thing, and this is the one that I really, they're all kind of fun, but you've got, what do I want to experience? How do I want to grow? And then the last one is, how do I want to contribute? And how do I want to contribute is one, it is about your legacy. Like you could say, if I'm in the grave, what are people going to say about me? But in the, how do you want to contribute? You can think local, to your family, to your friends, to your teams. You can think community, and you can think how you're going to volunteer or leave this place better. You can think also to the world, like if you want to travel and help, anything, like I think African orphanage in Africa or something like that, something large. But you also can talk about things about how you want to contribute to the environment. So some people, their contribution over the next 3 years is, I want to use less plastic and be really committed to that. And that's a legacy thing. So those are the 3 questions within the journey goals. And then as you see, as Alice and I do it, this is just really how we have our business meetings. But Alice and I, what we like to do is kind of go back and forth between a tangible goal and then getting that, because in that way we kind of get better ideas and more depth, that it's all kind of aligned together. So thank you so much for being with us. For those of you that are live on watching us on Facebook, we appreciate you being here today. And then for those of you that are with us here, we are going to turn off the recordings, and then we can go to the backstage and talk a little bit more about Revel Coach goals. So on behalf of my sister, Alison Nissen, and myself, we want to say thank you. It was wonderful sharing another Tuesday at 2 with you.
And remember to sign up on YouTube so you never miss an episode.
Click link.
Click link. Click subscribe.